Three airborne objects in North American airspace were shot from the sky by the American military in the span of 3 days over the weekend at President Joe Biden's direction, an unprecedented series of events that is leading to fresh questions about what exactly is transpiring high in the skies above the U.S. Biden on Monday ordered a new government-wide effort to determine what precisely is happening. And in 4 separate locations, from the frozen waters off Alaska to the Carolina coast, work was underway to collect and analyze debris from the shot-down objects. But answers about what the objects were, where they were from and what they were doing remained elusive. The only thing that was certain during a midday briefing at the White House was that the objects were not from space. The White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, stated, "I just wanted to make sure we address this from the White House. I know there have been questions and concerns about this, but there is no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity with these recent takedowns." The preemptive warning against extraterrestrial activity reflected the peculiarity of the time, when American fighter jets launched powerful missiles at unknown flying objects over North America. There was no indication that either of the 2 objects that were shot down over the weekend posed a threat to people on the ground, but U.S. officials believe they were likely carrying payloads of unknown description. The top White House official stated that as of Monday, the U.S. was not actively tracking any additional objects. The public was faced with an extraordinary string of headlines about those missions, and Biden himself provided no justification or assurance. According to White House officials, the object's unpredictability made a presidential address more challenging, and increased the likelihood that Biden would speak without all the facts. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada, who is his counterpart, paid a prearranged visit to the Yukon on Monday, and spoke about the object that was shot down over the territory on Saturday. In response to a reporter's query, Trudeau stated, "Obviously there is some sort of pattern in there. The fact we are seeing this in a significant way over the past week is a cause for interest and close attention." Trudeau met with members of the Canadian Armed Forces engaged in the debris search while he was in the Yukon, but he claimed that the wintry weather was delaying the recovery effort. Officials in the United States attempted to clarify what they already knew about the 3 objects that had been shot down since Friday, as well as what more they were attempting to find out. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan was chosen by Vice President Biden to head an interagency team to study the broader policy implications for detection, analysis, and disposition of unidentified aerial objects that pose a threat to the United States. The group, which includes Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, and Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines, is charged with talking to their relevant counterparts to share information and to try to gain their perspectives as well, Kirby said. In the interim, the administration will brief members of Congress and local officials. The 3 most recent objects shot down, according to Kirby, did not pose a threat to people on the ground, were unmanned, did not send communications, and did not exhibit any signs of maneuvering or had any propulsion capabilities. He did, however, state that the objects presented a potential risk to commercial aircraft, which motivated Biden to shoot them down. As officials wait for teams to begin recovering ground debris, information about the downed objects has slowly been revealed. According to U.S. officials, 2 of the recent 3 objects that were shot out of the sky were thought to have some sort of payload. The preliminary descriptions of the objects' appearances highlight how challenging it will be for administration officials to determine what they are used for or where they came from. The initial descriptions did not provide any more clarity, and officials have been unable to identify the objects. According to several U.S. officials, the object that came down on Friday about 10 miles off the coast of northern Alaska was described as a metallic object that broke into several pieces when it hit the sea ice. It may have had some sort of structure based on the fact that it was broken up into distinguishable pieces, but until the object is found, it is unlikely that more information will become available. An object was moving at 40,000 feet above the ground. Numerous officials stated that payloads were thought to have been present on the Alaskan and Yukon objects. 2 officials stated that they did not believe any of the 3 objects had propulsion, though further examination of the wreckage is required to be certain. 2 U.S. officials claimed that the objects that were shot down over Alaska, Canada, and Lake Huron had different appearances, though one of the officials claimed that they were roughly the same size. According to the authorities, the second object that was shot down over the Yukon Territory appeared to be a balloon with a metal payload suspended underneath. Anita Anand, the Minister of National Defense for Canada, reported on Saturday that the object was also moving at 40,000 feet. She continued by calling it a cylindrical object that was smaller than the Chinese surveillance system. CNN reported on Sunday that a senior administration official said the most recent object shot down over Lake Huron was octagonal in shape, with strings hanging off and no apparent payload. According to the Pentagon, it was shot down while flying at a height of 20,000 feet. The Chinese balloon that was shot down over the Atlantic Ocean has been carefully separated from the 3 objects that were shot down over the past 3 days. The 3 subsequent objects flew at much lower altitudes and were all smaller in size. Even the president's allies have begun to worry about the White House's silence as of Sunday night, because there was no indication that Biden planned to address the nation about the developments. The leaders of America are searching for explanations after a trio of new intrusions. As of the weekend, U.S. officials were merely still trying to understand what exactly those objects are, including their country or countries of origin, and whether they pose a serious threat, according to one person familiar with the administration's deliberations. This person pointed out that Biden would be taking a big risk if he appeared in front of the cameras and gave a speech before he and his top officials knew more about the targets that were shot down. Still, some are putting more and more pressure on the president to take that action. One Democratic congressman told CNN on the record that Biden's silence was odd, given that people are freaked out, speaking anonymously to provide a candid assessment. The lawmaker observed that Chuck Schumer, the majority leader in the Senate, had received noticeably more attention from the American people over the weekend than the president. According to a briefing from White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, according to what Schumer told ABC News, the object shot down over Canada was probably another balloon, just like the high-altitude object shot down over Alaska on Friday. According to a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee who spoke to CNN on Monday morning, the administration had not contacted them about the objects over the weekend. However, the lawmaker stated that they think Biden should address the public with what little information he currently knows about the downed objects. The lawmaker said, "I hope information is shared promptly. Ambiguity is fuel for conspiracy theorists. Truth is more important than consolation, I believe. Government communication is necessary for public trust." The question from CNN about the operation to shoot down a high-altitude object over Alaska was the last time Biden made a direct reference to any of the recently downed objects. He responded on Friday by saying, "It was a success." According to a second person with knowledge of the situation, Biden's staff believes that speaking about the objects before fully understanding what they are could raise additional questions. Biden has been actively involved behind the scenes, personally ordering the destruction of each object. However, his team has advised against giving a public address until at least some initial knowledge of the objects is discovered. On Monday, the president has nothing scheduled for the general public, and it was anticipated that he would get regular updates on what the authorities are learning about the objects as they examine the debris left behind after the shootdowns.